The Apache girl cried. "You saw everything. Take responsibility." The rancher insisted he only helped. The ranch was usually a quiet place where each day looked almost the same as the one before. Wide open land stretched in every direction, with fences running across dry fields and a few scattered trees offering shade. The rancher had lived and worked there for many years. He was known as a man who kept to himself, did his work honestly, and did not get involved in other people's problems. His life was simple. Wake up early, feed the animals, check the fences, fix what was broken, and rest when the sun went down. He did not look for trouble, and trouble usually did not look for him. That evening felt normal at first. The sun was slowly dropping toward the horizon, painting the sky with soft orange and red colors. The air was calm, and the only sounds were the distant calls of birds and the quiet movement of cattle. The rancher rode his horse along the fence line, checking for any damage caused by animals or weather. This was something he had done hundreds of times before. His mind was relaxed, thinking about simple things like what he would eat for dinner and what work needed to be done the next day. As he moved closer to the far edge of his land, something unusual caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just a shadow or a wild animal resting near the fence, but as he got closer, he saw that it was a person. A young girl was sitting on the ground, leaning against a wooden fence post. Her clothes looked dusty, and her hair was messy, as if she had been traveling or running for a long time. She looked tired and weak, and her posture showed that she had little energy left. The rancher slowed his horse and watched carefully. He was not the kind of man who rushed into unknown situations. Living alone had taught him to be careful. Still, he could clearly see that the girl was in trouble. She was not acting like someone who just stopped to rest. Her shoulders were tense, and her face showed fear and exhaustion. She looked around nervously, as if she was afraid someone might be following her. He got down from his horse and spoke gently, keeping some distance so she would not feel threatened. He asked if she was okay and if she needed help. At first, she did not answer. She just looked at him with wide, unsure eyes. There was pain and worry in her expression. It was clear that she did not trust easily, and the rancher understood that. He had seen enough of life to know that people who had been through hard things often became quiet and guarded. He slowly took out a bottle of water from his saddlebag and placed it on the ground a few steps away from her. He told her she could take it if she wanted. He did not move closer. He wanted her to feel safe, not pressured. Not after a few moments, she reached for the bottle with shaking hands. She drank carefully, as if she had not had enough water in a long time. The simple act of drinking seemed to give her a small amount of strength. The rancher noticed small details that worried him. Her hands were dirty, and there were light scratches on her arms, as if she had pushed through bushes or rough ground. Her breathing was still heavy, and she kept glancing over her shoulder. These signs told him that she had not simply wandered onto his land by accident. Something had clearly happened before she arrived. He asked her where she came from and if anyone was looking for her. She hesitated before speaking. Her voice was quiet and unsure. She only said that she needed to rest and that she had walked for a long time. She did not give many details, and the rancher did not push her to explain more. He knew that sometimes people needed time before they could talk about difficult things. The sun continued to set, and the air began to cool. The rancher knew it would not be safe for her to stay outside all night. He offered to let her rest in a small storage building near his house where she could be protected from the cold and animals. He made it clear that he would keep his distance and that she could leave whenever she wanted. He wanted to help, but he also wanted her to feel in control of her own choices. After thinking for a moment, the girl slowly stood up. Her legs looked weak, and she had to hold on to the fence to steady herself. The rancher offered his arm for support, but only after asking if it was okay. She nodded slightly, and with small, careful steps, they walked toward the ranch house area. The walk was quiet. The only sound was the soft crunch of dirt under their feet and the distant noise of animals settling for the night. As they walked, the rancher felt a strange sense of worry in his chest. He could not explain it clearly, but he felt that this moment was important. Helping someone was the right thing to do, but he also knew that sometimes helping could bring unexpected problems. Still, he believed that leaving a young person alone and scared in the dark would be worse. His parents had raised him to believe that basic kindness mattered, even when it was uncomfortable. When they reached the small building, he opened the door and turned on a light. It was simple inside, with a chair, a small table, and some clean blankets stored in a box. He gave her a blanket and pointed to a chair where she could sit. He told her she could rest there and that he would be nearby if she needed anything. He also said that if she wanted to leave later, he would not stop her. The girl sat down slowly and wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. For the first time, she seemed a little less tense. Her breathing became calmer, and her hands stopped shaking as much. The rancher brought her some simple food. Nothing special, just what he had on hand. She thanked him quietly. Her eyes stayed down as she ate, but her body language showed that she was grateful. The rancher stood near the door, giving her space. He did not ask many questions, but his mind was full of thoughts. Who was she? Why was she alone? Why did she look so afraid? He knew that whatever had happened, it was not something small. Life had taught him to read people, and everything about her told him that she had been through something serious. He also felt a sense of responsibility, even though he did not fully understand why. He had not caused her situation, but now that she was on his land, he felt that he could not simply ignore her. At the same time, he was careful not to promise more than he could give. He did not want to make things worse by getting involved in something he did not understand. As the night grew darker, the ranch became very quiet. The wind moved gently through the grass, and the stars began to appear in the sky. Inside the small building, the girl sat wrapped in the blanket, looking tired but safer than before. The rancher watched quietly, making sure she was okay, while keeping his respectful distance. Neither of them knew it yet, but this simple moment of offering water, a blanket, and a place to rest was only the beginning. What seemed like a small act of kindness would soon grow into something much bigger. The rancher thought he was only helping someone in need for one night. The girl, however, carried a heavy story inside her, a story that would soon bring questions, emotions, and serious challenges. That night, as the rancher closed the door gently and walked back toward his house, he felt uneasy. He had a strong feeling that his quiet life was about to change. He did not know how or why, but deep inside he sensed that this encounter was not just another normal part of ranch life. It was the start of a situation that would test his patience, his honesty, and his understanding of what it truly meant to help someone in trouble. The next morning came quietly over the ranch. Soft sunlight touched the fields, and the animals began their usual sounds. For the rancher, it felt like a normal start to the day, but in his heart, he knew nothing was normal anymore. His mind kept going back to the girl resting in the small building. He wondered how she had slept and whether she felt any safer than the night before. He finished his early chores faster than usual. His attention was not fully on the work. He kept thinking about what he should say to her and how to offer more help without making her uncomfortable. He did not want to push her to talk, but he also knew that understanding her situation could be important for her safety. When he walked to the small building, he knocked softly before opening the door. The girl was sitting up, wrapped in the same blanket. She looked tired, but a little stronger than before. Her eyes followed him carefully, still unsure but no longer filled with the same level of fear. He greeted her kindly and asked how she was feeling. She said she was okay and thanked him again for letting her stay. He brought her some fresh water and simple breakfast. As she ate, there was a long silence. The rancher did not rush to fill it. He believed that people spoke when they were ready. Finally, she took a slow breath and began to talk. Not in full detail, but enough to show that something heavy was on her mind. She said that she felt angry, confused, and scared. She said that too many things had happened too quickly, and she did not know who to trust anymore. The rancher listened carefully, nodding to show that he was paying attention. He did not interrupt her or question her words. He wanted her to feel heard. After a few moments, her emotions became stronger. Her voice changed and her eyes filled with tears. She looked directly at the rancher and said words that surprised him deeply. She told him that he had seen everything and that he should take responsibility. The words hit him like a sudden storm. He was shocked and did not understand what she meant. He gently told her that he only found her near the fence and that he had not seen what happened before that. He said he helped because she looked like she needed help, not because he knew anything about her past situation. His voice was calm, but inside, his heart was beating faster. Being accused of something he did not understand made him feel nervous and uncomfortable. The girl shook her head and insisted that it did not matter. In her mind, being there meant being part of it. She believed that anyone who saw the situation or became involved should share responsibility. Her words were full of pain, not anger alone. It was clear that she was not thinking clearly. She was speaking from hurt and fear, not from facts. The rancher tried to explain his side again, slowly and respectfully. He told her that he wanted to help, but he could not accept blame for something he did not do or see. He said that taking responsibility for her safety now was different from taking responsibility for what happened before she came to his land. He hoped she would understand the difference. For a moment, the room felt heavy with silence. The girl looked down at her hands. Her shoulders were tense, and her breathing became uneven. She seemed torn between wanting help and wanting someone to blame. The rancher realized that she might be looking for a sense of control. When people feel powerless, they sometimes try to hold on to anything that gives them a feeling of strength, even if it is not fair. As the day went on, the girl's emotions came and went like waves. Sometimes she was quiet and distant. Other times she spoke quickly, saying that people always walked away and that no one ever stayed to help for long. The rancher listened and began to understand that her pain was deeper than one single event. It sounded like she had faced many hard moments in her life, not just one. He told her that he was not planning to walk away right now. He said he wanted to make sure she was safe and had a chance to decide what she wanted to do next. He also told her that if she wanted, he could help her contact people who might be better able to support her. He was careful with his words. He did not want to make promises he could not keep. The girl looked at him with mixed feelings. Part of her seemed to want to trust him. Another part of her still held on to fear and doubt. She said that trusting people had not gone well for her before. She said that every time she thought someone would help, something went wrong. The rancher felt a deep sense of sadness hearing this. It made him realize how much pain she had carried for a long time. At one point, her emotions rose again, and she repeated her words about responsibility. She said that because he found her, he could not pretend that none of it was his problem anymore. The rancher took a slow breath and answered carefully. He said that helping someone did mean caring, but it did not mean accepting blame for things that were not his actions. He said that real responsibility was about doing what was right now, not taking guilt for the past. His calm words slowly changed the tone of the conversation. The girl did not fully agree, but she became quieter. She seemed tired, not just in her body, but in her heart and mind. It was clear that carrying anger and fear had worn her down. The rancher offered her time and space to rest again. He told her she did not have to solve everything in one day. Outside, life on the ranch continued. The animals moved through their usual routines, and the sun climbed higher in the sky. From the outside, everything looked normal. But inside the small building, a quiet emotional struggle was taking place. Two people from very different lives were trying to understand each other, each carrying their own thoughts and worries. The rancher began to realize that helping her would not be simple. It would not be just about giving food and a place to rest. It would also mean dealing with strong emotions, misunderstandings, and possibly serious questions from others later. He felt the weight of this more clearly now. Still, he did not regret helping her. He believed that kindness was not always easy, but it was still necessary. As the afternoon approached, the girl seemed calmer, but also more thoughtful. She sat quietly looking out the small window, as if thinking about what might happen next. The rancher gave her space but stayed nearby. He wanted her to know that she was not alone at this moment, even if the future was uncertain. Deep inside, he also felt a growing worry. If she truly believed he was responsible, would others also start to believe it? Would his simple act of helping turn into something that could harm his reputation or his peaceful life? These thoughts stayed in his mind even though he tried to push them away. By the end of the day, both of them were emotionally tired. The girl was no longer crying, but her eyes still held sadness. The rancher felt a quiet tension in his chest. He knew that this was only the beginning of a much bigger situation. Her words about responsibility had changed everything. What started as a simple act of kindness was now becoming a complicated emotional and social problem. As night came again, the rancher stood outside for a moment, looking at the dark sky. He took a deep breath, trying to prepare himself for whatever might come next. He still wanted to help, but he now understood that helping would not be simple or easy. The girl's pain, her accusations, and her fear had created a situation that could grow beyond his control. Neither of them fully understood what the next day would bring. But one thing was clear. The emotional connection between them, filled with confusion, hurt, and a search for support, had already set the stage for serious challenges ahead. What would happen next would test not only the truth of the situation, but also the strength and patience of both people involved. Over the next few days, the quiet ranch slowly became a place filled with tension and unspoken worries. From the outside, everything still looked peaceful. The fences stood strong, the animals moved through the fields, and the daily work continued. But inside the rancher's mind and inside the small building where the girls stayed, nothing felt calm anymore. The situation had begun to grow in ways neither of them had expected. The girl did not leave right away. Each day she rested, ate, and slowly regained some physical strength. But emotionally she remained troubled. Sometimes she was quiet and distant, sitting for long periods without speaking. Other times her emotions came out suddenly, and she spoke with strong feelings about being hurt, being ignored, and being let down by people in the past. The rancher listened as much as he could, even though some of her words made him uncomfortable. He noticed that her story came out in small pieces. She did not explain everything clearly or in order. One day she would mention traveling for a long time. Another day she would talk about people who promised help but never followed through. Each piece made him understand a little more. but also made the full picture more confusing. He wanted to help, but he also wanted to protect himself from being wrongly blamed for something he did not do. As time passed, people from nearby areas began to notice that something was different. A neighbor who passed by the ranch mentioned seeing someone unfamiliar near the property. Another person asked the rancher casual questions about whether he had visitors. At first, these questions seemed harmless, but soon the rancher could feel a change in the way people looked at him. Their eyes stayed on him a little longer. Their voices sounded more curious, more careful. The girl's emotional words and her strong belief that someone should take responsibility made the situation even harder. Even though she did not speak to outsiders directly, her pain showed clearly in her behavior. If someone happened to see her near the ranch, they could tell she was not just a visitor. Her tired face and quiet sadness made people wonder what had happened. Rumors have a way of growing without needing full facts. Small pieces of information turned into bigger stories. Some people started to talk quietly among themselves. They wondered why a young girl was staying on a ranch with a man who lived alone. They did not know the full truth, but their imagination filled in the empty spaces. The rancher began to feel the weight of these unspoken judgments. He tried to stay focused on his work, but it became harder each day. While fixing fences or feeding animals, his mind would drift back to the situation. He thought about how quickly a good reputation could change. For years, he had built a life based on honesty and quiet respect. Now, without doing anything wrong, he felt that his name might slowly become connected to something negative. The girl, on her side, also felt pressure. She could sense that her presence was causing problems for him, even if she did not fully understand how. Sometimes she became more withdrawn, feeling guilty for bringing trouble. Other times she became more emotional, repeating that people should not turn away when someone is in pain. Her feelings were mixed. She wanted help, but she also carried anger from being hurt before. One afternoon, the rancher gently tried to talk with her about what might happen next. He asked if there was anyone she trusted, anyone who could come and support her. He said this not because he wanted her to leave, but because he wanted to make sure she had long-term help. He knew that he could not be the only person in her life. He was not trained or prepared to handle everything she was going through. The girl listened quietly. After a long pause, she said that trusting people had not been easy for her. She said that in the past, when she reached out, she often felt misunderstood or ignored. This made her hold on to anger and fear. The rancher understood this feeling more than he expected. Even though his life was different, he also knew what it felt like to carry things alone. At the same time, the pressure from the community continued to grow. The rancher noticed small changes. Some neighbors were less friendly. Some conversations felt shorter and colder. No one openly accused him, but the feeling of being watched and judged was there. It was like a shadow following him through his daily routine. The rancher began to worry not only about his reputation, but also about the future of his ranch. If people stopped trusting him, it could affect his work and his relationships. He had always believed that doing the right thing would protect him. Now he was learning that even good actions could be misunderstood. The girl also started to feel the weight of these changes. She saw the rancher's stress and tired eyes. She noticed how quiet he had become. This made her feel torn. On one hand, she still felt hurt and wanted someone to take responsibility. On the other hand, she could see that he was not the person who caused her pain. This inner conflict made her emotions even stronger. There were moments when they had calm conversations. In these moments, they spoke about simple things. The rancher told stories about his early days on the ranch, about learning to work the land, and about the quiet life he had chosen. The girl shared small memories of better times in her life, times when she felt safer and happier. These moments created a small bridge of understanding between them, but the calm moments did not last long. The bigger questions were always waiting in the background. What really happened before she came to the ranch? Who else was involved? What should be done now? These questions stayed in the air, heavy and unanswered. The rancher began to realize that the truth, whatever it was, would eventually come out. And when it did, it might not come out in a gentle way. He felt caught in the middle of something he did not start, but could not easily escape. This made him feel both frustrated and worried. The girl, too, felt trapped in her own way. She was tired of running and tired of feeling alone. At the same time, she was afraid of what would happen if everything became public. Fear and hope lived side by side inside her. She wanted safety, but she was scared of being judged or misunderstood again. As days passed, the tension became part of daily life. The ranch no longer felt like just a place of work and quiet. It felt like a place where every action and every word mattered more than before. Both of them were careful, choosing their words and watching their behavior, knowing that others might be paying attention. The rancher sometimes stood alone in the evening, looking out over his land. The wide fields that once brought him peace now reminded him of how quickly life could change. He thought about how one unexpected meeting had slowly turned into a situation filled with stress, questions, and uncertainty. The girl often sat by the small window watching the same fields. To her, the land looked open and endless, but her own future felt unclear. She did not know where she would go or who she could truly trust. All she knew was that her life had reached a point where she could not go back to the way things were before. Both of them were now part of a story bigger than they had planned. The rancher was no longer just a man helping someone in need. The girl was no longer just someone looking for rest and safety. Their lives had become connected through pain, misunderstanding, and a growing need for truth. By the end of this period, it was clear that things could not stay the same. The quiet pressure from the community, the emotional weight between them, and the unanswered questions were slowly pushing them toward a moment where everything would have to be faced directly. The calm surface of ranch life was beginning to crack, and what lay underneath would soon demand to be seen and understood. The tension that had been building for days could no longer stay hidden. The quiet looks, the careful words, and the heavy silence were slowly turning into something that needed to be faced directly. The rancher could feel it in every part of his day. Even the animals seemed more restless, as if they could sense that something important was about to happen. One morning, the rancher decided that it was time to stop letting fear and rumors control the situation. He knew that staying silent would only make things worse. He believed that honest conversation, even if it was uncomfortable, was better than letting misunderstandings grow. So he reached out to a few trusted people from the nearby community. These were people who had known him for years and who had seen his character through good times and bad. At the same time, the girl was also struggling inside. She could feel that everything was coming to a turning point. The weight of holding her emotions, her anger, and her fear was becoming too much. Part of her wanted to run again, to leave before things became harder. Another part of her knew that running would not solve anything. She was tired of carrying everything alone. When the day of the meeting came, the air felt heavy and serious. It was not a large gathering, just a small group of people who were there to listen and help find clarity. The rancher stood quietly, trying to stay calm. The girl sat with her hands folded, her eyes moving from face to face. Everyone could feel the tension, but there was also a sense that this moment was necessary. He explained in simple and honest words how he had found the girl near his fence, how he had offered water and shelter, and how he had tried to help without pushing or forcing anything. He made it clear that he had not seen what happened before she arrived, and that he had no part in whatever had caused her pain. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed how deeply the situation had affected him. Then the girl was given the chance to speak. At first, her voice was quiet. She talked about fear, confusion, and feeling alone. She said that when someone finally noticed her and helped her, her emotions became mixed. She admitted that her words about responsibility came from pain, not from clear thinking. As she spoke more, her voice became stronger. She shared how being hurt in the past had made her see the world in a way where trust was very difficult. The people listening did not interrupt. They allowed both sides to speak fully. They asked gentle questions, not to blame, but to understand. Slowly, piece by piece, a clearer picture began to form. It became easier to separate what was known for sure from what was based on fear and emotion. One important moment came when the girl admitted that the rancher had not caused her situation. She said that she had been overwhelmed and looking for someone to hold on to, someone who could make her feel less alone. In her pain, she had placed too much emotional weight on him. Saying this was not easy for her. It meant facing her own fear and admitting that her anger had been misdirected. The rancher listened carefully. He did not show anger or pride. Instead, he showed understanding. He said that he could see how pain could change the way someone thinks. He said that he never wanted to be the cause of more hurt, but he also needed people to know the truth. Hearing her words helped him feel some relief, but he also felt sadness for how much she had been carrying inside. The trusted people in the room began to speak as well. They reminded both of them that emotional pain can make situations confusing. They talked about how important it was to support someone in need while also being fair and honest about facts. Their calm voices helped lower the tension. The room, which had started filled with stress, slowly became a place of careful understanding. This meeting did not magically fix everything. The community would still need time to fully understand and accept what had happened, but it created an important turning point. For the first time, the truth was spoken out loud in a shared space. This helped stop some of the quiet rumors and brought a sense of direction to what needed to happen next. After the meeting, the rancher and the girl had a private moment to talk. The girl looked tired but lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her chest. She told the rancher that she was sorry for placing blame on him. She said that she had not meant to hurt him, but she had not known how else to express her pain. The rancher told her that he understood. He said that while the situation had been difficult for him, he did not regret helping her. He also said that it was important for both of them to move forward in a healthier way. He gently explained that he could continue to support her in finding the right kind of help, but he could not carry responsibility for things that were not his actions. This honest conversation created a new kind of connection between them. It was not based on fear or confusion anymore. It was based on respect and clearer understanding. They were no longer just a rancher and a girl in trouble. They were two people who had faced a hard situation and chosen to talk instead of turning away. The days that followed felt different. The rancher noticed that some of the tension in the community began to ease. People were still careful, but the looks of quiet judgment started to soften. A few neighbors even returned to friendly conversations. It was a slow change, but it was a real one. The girl also began to change. She became more open about her feelings, but in a calmer way. She started thinking more about her future and what steps she could take to build a safer life. The anger that once filled her words began to turn into a desire to heal and move forward. For the rancher, this period was a lesson in patience and courage. He learned that doing the right thing could sometimes bring unexpected challenges. He also learned that facing problems directly instead of avoiding them, could lead to understanding and growth. Even though the hardest moment had passed, both of them knew that their journey was not over. Healing, trust, and rebuilding would take time. But now, they were no longer trapped in silence and misunderstanding. They had taken a step toward truth. As the sun set over the ranch one evening, the light spread softly across the fields. The land looked the same as it always had, but the people within it were not the same. They had been changed by pain, by honesty, and by the courage to face a difficult situation together. This part of the story marked a turning point. What had once been filled with confusion and accusation was now moving toward clarity and understanding. The road ahead was still long, but for the first time in a while, both the rancher and the girl could see a path forward that was built on truth, respect, and the hope for real healing. After the difficult conversations and the emotional meeting, life on the ranch slowly began to settle into a new kind of normal. It was not the same quiet life the rancher had before, but it was calmer than the days filled with tension and fear. The air still carried a sense of change, but now that change felt more hopeful than threatening. The rancher returned to his daily work with a different mindset. He still woke up early, fed the animals, and checked the fences, but now his thoughts were more thoughtful. He had learned that helping someone was not just about giving food or shelter. It was also about understanding emotions, setting healthy boundaries, and standing up for the truth in a calm and respectful way. The girl also began to take small steps toward building a better future. With support from others, she started thinking about where she could go next and what kind of help would be best for her. She spent more time talking openly about her feelings, not with anger, but with honesty. Each conversation helped her feel a little lighter, as if she was slowly putting down the heavy weight she had been carrying for so long. There were moments when memories and emotions still came back strongly. Sometimes she would sit quietly, lost in thought. Other times she would feel unsure about trusting people again. But now, instead of turning that fear into blame, she tried to face it directly. She began to understand that healing was not a straight path. It was a journey with good days and hard days. The rancher continued to offer support, but in a balanced way. He made sure that the girl knew she was not alone, while also making it clear that he could not be her only source of help. This was important for both of them. It allowed her to build a wider support system, and it allowed him to protect his own peace and responsibilities. Slowly, the community also began to adjust. The quiet rumors faded as people saw that the situation was being handled with honesty and care. Some neighbors even offered kind words and simple support. These small gestures helped rebuild trust. It reminded the rancher that a good name, once tested, could still be repaired with patience and truth. For the girl, seeing this support made a difference. It showed her that not everyone would turn away. It helped her believe that there were people who wanted to help in the right way, without judgment or control. This helped her begin to rebuild her confidence, one small step at a time. There came a day when the girl told the rancher that she was ready to move forward to the next stage of her life. She said she was grateful for the help and the safety he had given her, but she also knew that she needed to continue her journey with the right kind of long-term support. Saying goodbye was not easy, that it was an important part of her growth. The rancher listened quietly and nodded. He told her that he was proud of her for finding the strength to take that step. He reminded her that asking for help and moving forward took courage. He wished her well and told her that he hoped she would find peace and stability in the days ahead. When the time came for her to leave, the moment was filled with mixed emotions. There was sadness because of everything they had been through together. There was also relief, knowing that both of them could now move on from a difficult chapter. They shared a simple, respectful goodbye. No big words, No dramatic promises, just quiet understanding. After she left, the ranch felt different again. The small building was empty, and the quiet returned. But this quiet was not the same as before. It carried the memory of everything that had happened. The rancher often thought about how one unexpected meeting had changed his view of life. He had learned that even good intentions could lead to complicated situations. He had also learned that facing truth and staying calm could help guide a difficult situation toward a better ending. The girl, on her new path, carried her own lessons. She learned that while pain could make her see the world in dark ways, it did not have to control her forever. She learned that not everyone who helped her was responsible for her past pain. She also learned that healing meant taking responsibility for her own future, even when the past could not be changed. Both of them grew in ways they did not expect. The rancher became more aware of how deeply other people's struggles could affect his life. The girl became stronger in understanding her own emotions and in choosing healthier ways to deal with them. Time continued to move forward. The seasons changed. The fields turned green and then dry again. Life on the ranch carried on, as it always had. But inside the rancher, there was a new sense of wisdom. He knew that life could change in a single moment. He also knew that kindness, when combined with honesty and clear boundaries, could make a real difference. The story of the girl and the rancher was not one of perfect endings. It was a story of real life, where problems are not always solved quickly and pain does not disappear overnight. But it was also a story of growth, understanding, and the power of choosing to move forward. In the end, both of them learned what true responsibility really meant.